Good morning. Thank you for joining us. I'm Sheriff David Sorencione with the Ontario County Sheriff's Office. With me up here in front, on my left side, closest to me, Ronald Evelyn, Chief of the Geneva Police Department. Next to him is our District Attorney, Jim Ritz. On my right is our Chief Deputy, Stacy Lambert. Next to her is Peter Van Dellen, an Assistant District Attorney with Ontario County. We're here this morning to report on a significant investigation that's been ongoing in Geneva for a couple weeks now. We have a significant update to report on that. There's a prepared statement that I'll read, and then we'll answer the questions that we can at this point. So, during the week of April 21st, the Ontario County Sheriff's Office Special Investigations Division received intelligence that a police officer, a Geneva City police officer, potentially sold a controlled substance to an adult male at a business in the town of Geneva. This transaction was alleged to have occurred while the police officer was on duty, in uniform, and operating a marked police car. Upon receipt of this information, an investigation was immediately commenced by our Special Investigations Division. Based on information gathered in the initial days of this investigation, multiple search warrants were executed in the city and town of Geneva on April 30th. Since then, our investigators have collectively spent hundreds of hours examining physical and digital evidence seized during the course of these search warrants, as well as additional evidence gathered during their examination of this case. Based on the totality of evidence and information obtained since the start of this investigation, sheriff's investigators have obtained significant probable cause that the officer provided dextroamphetamine, a form of Adderall, to another person. Dextroamphetamine is a Schedule II controlled substance requiring a prescription. This morning, sheriff's investigators arrested this officer, Michael Tapscott, age 41, of Geneva. Tapscott is a 13-year veteran of the Geneva Police Department. Mr. Tapscott has been charged with one count of criminal sale of a controlled substance in the 5th degree, a Class D felony, and one count of official misconduct, a Class A misdemeanor. Mr. Tapscott was arraigned on these charges during today's morning session of Ontario County Cap Court and released on his own recognizance, pending further court action in Geneva Town Court on May 14th. The evidence gathered to date and any additional evidence gathered as this investigation continues will determine the course of action going forward. All of us standing up here and the hundreds of men and women who are on the front lines protecting this county and our region every day understand the magnitude of these allegations. No one feels disturbing news like this deeper than those who serve their communities with honor and professionalism every day. Each of us understands that no one is above the law, including police officers. That's why, upon notification of these allegations, our Special Investigations Division made this case their #1 priority over multiple ongoing cases. Since this information came to light, they have worked early mornings, late nights, and weekends conducting interviews, analyzing evidence, and then finally today making this arrest. We will continue this investigation until every piece of evidence has been examined, every person tied to this is interviewed, and every lead is pursued. My sincere thanks to our investigators and members of our crime scene unit who have worked to exhaustion to get us to this point. We have also received crucial assistance in this investigation from the Seneca and Wayne County Sheriff's Offices and the Ontario County District Attorney's Office. Without the teamwork and extra resources provided by each of these agencies, this case would not have come to this resolution as quickly as it has. I offer my thanks to our partner law enforcement agencies for this assistance as well. With that, we'll take questions.
You got an email saying that they were a large amount of pills. Can you go into the detail about the quantity?
The transaction that's being charged, the information is one pill.
Is there only one exchange or multiple exchanges?
That's part of an ongoing investigation, but today we're here to report on the arrest of that transaction and that pill.
Sheriff, can you describe some of the duties that he had at the police department? Did he work in the drug unit? Can you just describe some of his duties for us, what he was responsible for?
Good morning. My name is Ron Eveland. I'm the police chief for Geneva. So Officer Tapscott was assigned to the road patrol, so he would work in assigned posts in the city and take normal complaints. He was not assigned to any sort of specialty unit or assignment.
Did he have any interaction? We received some tips as well that he might have been involved in the school districts as part of the DARE program.
He was a DARE officer for a number of years, but Officer Tapscott withdrew from the DARE program in early 2024.
This investigation is, of course, ongoing. Given the one transaction, is there any indication at this point? I understand he's a 13-year veteran. How long, or if there's a possibility that there could be other situations involved as well?
Yes. So there is a tremendous amount of evidence that we've collected in this case that, as we stand here today, our investigators are continuing to analyze and pore over and follow leads on. And I will just tell you that that evidence is going to take us wherever it takes us, and we will follow the evidence and go where we need to go with it. And I think for that part I have to leave it there for now.
Does that include any potential other officers that may be involved or have been assisting or withholding information?
Again, wherever the investigation, wherever this investigation and the evidence leads us to, if that's the case, I don't want to get into a ton of hypotheticals, but if that is the case, then yeah, that's possible.
Has he been on administrative leave since April 21st, since it began, or just since he's been arrested?
So I was notified on April 25th by the sheriff of this investigation, at which time Officer Tapscott was placed on an administrative leave. Since that time, I did receive an official resignation from him yesterday.
Yeah, Chief, how concerning is it to see this in your police department? How do you go forward with the attitude around the station? Do you put that into the training, or what do you do going forward with the other officers?
I'm certain, as this unfolds, we'll have some sort of corrective action plan. These allegations are very troubling. They're very disturbing. I think the best thing that we can do as leaders is, one, show and support our department and let them know that operations are going to continue. I think also just be there for the community as well and help, build and establish that trust.
And Chief, since you have been at the department for so long, I imagine you knew him very closely. Can you just talk a little bit more on the person that, in terms of just the personal connection? And I understand this must be deeply troubling, as you mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about the personal side of things, we're a smaller agency, so there's also personal relationships along with the professional relationships. But I'll just echo what the sheriff said. Police officers are held to higher standards, and these allegations are very serious in nature, and we're going to cooperate fully with the sheriff's investigation. I'll defer that to the sheriff.
I'm sorry, what?
Are you able to say this time who the business or the person was that received
The business where this transaction occurred was Geneva Foreign and Sports, and the person that was involved in the transaction was at that location.
And what would be your message to the public as well? Given this is an ongoing investigation, there's obviously lots of possibilities for other things to come up with this, but just in terms of public trust amid this investigation here.
Sure, Isabel, thank you. My message to the public, and I speak for all of us, as I mentioned in my statement, we're not above the law. We recognize that. But the vast majority of police officers and all first responders that stand on the front lines are out there doing the right thing for their communities. They're dedicated. They put themselves in harm's way every day to protect their neighbors and strangers. And they feel this very deeply too. You know, when I had to make this notification to our investigators and get this investigation launched, when we had the first meeting, they were very disturbed, and they were very adamant about the fact that, in agreement with our administration, that this needs to be our top priority. We cannot have police officers out there conducting this behavior, especially on duty. We owe it to the public to clean this up. We're better than this. And quite frankly, that's why I'm thankful that in 2 weeks' time we've been able to make an arrest. The arrest was made at 6:45 this morning, and here we are at 11 o'clock telling you pretty much everything that we can relative to where we've been with this in the last 2 weeks. The public deserves to know. I recognize that. Everyone up here recognizes that. We have nothing to hide. We don't want to hide anything. But that being said, this is still an open, ongoing investigation, and for the integrity of that and to protect it, there are certain things that I still can't tell you today, but I want the public to know that this investigation will continue until we get to the bottom of every piece of this, and if there's more to report, we'll be back. Anyone else?
For the DA, if you wanted to comment too on just the charges and what this could carry.
So it's a Class D felony. It can carry, you can get as much as as low as an unconditional discharge, as much as 5.5 years in prison, 1 or 2 years of post-release supervision. That'll be based on the history of the character, the investigation, and whatever happens in court. And obviously we'll have the input of a judge who makes the decision ultimately on what the sentence is.
And in these cases, where it is involving, an officer, I guess how is that applied to the courts when it comes to the person and the character?
Sure. So when you have somebody who's been on the job as long as Officer Tapscott, clearly he's involved in cases, ongoing cases. We have to disclose the arrest as it relates to that, and we will be doing that. We're scrubbing our cases now to make sure we know every case that he's involved with, to determine who needs to know. And obviously, being transparent, this being a part of it, most people will know before we get back to the office that this has happened and that he's been arrested. Anyone else?
Can you tell us more about the location that it was sold again? You said I missed the something imports. What kind of a store?
Geneva Foreign and Sports. It's a car dealership and mechanic and body shop in the town of Geneva on Route 14.
Thank you.
Are you able to tell us if it was an employee at that location, or if it was just where they met?
It was an employee. Good? All right. Thank you, everybody.